All right, we're about to time travel. And I'm not talking about going back a couple of weeks so you can put money on the Nixon 5. I want to go a little further than that. I want you to think about where you were in high school. You there yet? I want you to think about the people, the person, the program, the opportunity that led to your success today. You have it yet? Now imagine if that never existed. Where would you be right now? Would you have the success that you have? The reason why I open up with this question is to illustrate the fact that none of us are successful in isolation. Each and every one of us are the sum product of people's prayers, support, love, and belief. But unfortunately, in society, we often celebrate the individual success. I've seen a lot of individual success in my lifetime, in our communities, but individual success never moves the needle. I think about all the incredible work that schools are doing, that community-based organizations are doing. But how can we continue to be successful and our communities are still on fire? See, I believe in something different. But let me tell you a quick story. The story begins with a teenage mother. She absolutely had a terrible experience in public education, to the point where she said she hated school. But she was determined to make sure that this was not the reality for her child. She sent her child to an all-black private school. How could someone making under $30,000 a year afford an all-black private school? The Village. We had aunties helping out with homework. We had an army of uncles making pickups. This teenage mother made miracles happen. And that school that she sent her child to was founded by James Weldon Johnson's niece, the man who penned Lift Every Voice and Sing. So imagine that child every Friday singing Lift Every Voice and Sing, all the verses, reciting poetry from the Harlem Renaissance every week. That child's foundation was fundamentally different when you learn about the cradle of civilization, the kings and queens of Africa, Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X, before there were movies about them. It set him on a path. And for a teenage mom that hated school, see, a lot of people know the cost of things, but know the value of nothing. But she knew the value of education. And she set high expectations for this child. See, in that home, 80 was considered failing. 85, why didn't you get a 90? 90, why didn't you get a 95? 100, you didn't do extra credit? That standard put that child on a path and set that child up to go to a great public middle school. A lot of opportunity there. But most importantly, that child was discovered by a very special program that allowed that child to go to a private school on a full ride scholarship. You would think, this is an amazing thing. But that child didn't know any better. That child tried to block their blessing, tried to get kicked out of the program. But see, this is when the Village comes in. The founder of that program actually came to that home, had the conversation with the mother, and shifted the trajectory of that young man. However, going into that predominantly white environment was the first time that that child recognized that they were actually considered low income, right? But more than that, you go from a public school with 25 to 30 kids in a class to 12 to 15, you're navigating a lot. But there was also this overwhelming guilt because this child recognized that their educational experience was so different from their friends, from their community. That child thought, why me? Why do I deserve this? And it's something that people talk about in terms of survivor's guilt, survivor's remorse. It took that child years, almost decades, to recognize that God was simply showing that child what was possible so they can make a difference in the lives of others. I am that child. Donald Maurice Ruff Jr., that teenage mom was still Lynette White. My foundation forever changed my trajectory, and it was because of my village. I may stand here alone, but you don't see the shoulders that I stand on. The shoulders that I stand on have allowed me to see the world differently and how we need to reimagine the village. See, I know reimagining the village is possible because I came from one that was incredibly thorough. And in my almost 30 years of work, from Sponsors for Educational Opportunity to the Eagle Academy Network of Schools and the Eagle Academy Foundation, I know firsthand how a conspiracy of care can be transformative. So when we talk about reimagining the village, I look at this in a few different ways. First and foremost, I think about all of the businesses who are benefiting from the dollars of our communities. Imagine if there was a community index. Imagine if those relationships were not just transactional, but impactful. What if every business actually provided job opportunities for the people in the community, provided a scholarship for a student who was aspiring to go to college or going to a trade school? Imagine if the businesses reinvested in the community-based organizations, making incredible change in their communities. Wouldn't that be a thing? Imagine if that restaurant owner opened up his kitchen and taught the kids culinary arts. Transformative, not transactional. When I think about our community-based organizations, we all have incredible missions and we're killing them. But what if we actually leaned in, not just to our mission, but leaned in with one another? How do we create an ecosystem to make sure that all families are good, putting young people at the center and creating a through line for their success long term, not just working in silos, but braiding the resources? I think about schools. Every year, every single high school is sending countless students to college, into the workforce. Imagine if by community we got together and we pulled the students that were going to the same colleges together, mitigating belonging, creating unity, creating its own persistent strategy. What if the folks going into the trades were doing the same thing? Something different is possible if we just stretch our minds. And I think about us as individuals because we all have a role to play. I think about my current village. How many of us have actually done an assessment of our friend circle and our family? Do we know where they work? Does that job actually offer scholarships for a kid, a major that your kid may be majoring in, right? Do they have job opportunities, entry level? How are we mapping our own ecosystems to better support the larger community? I just had an incredible example of this where one of my friends from high school reached out to me and daughter didn't get a scholarship. I went into my link. She noticed that I knew someone on LinkedIn. We made the connection. Next thing I know, I made a couple of calls. She reapplied. She got the internship. See, we may not be all millionaires in this room, but from a social capital standpoint, we're billionaires if we simply choose to do the essential mapping. I have to tell you, as first person in my household to graduate from college, I'm tired of us starting at zero. I'm tired of us starting at zero. How do we position ourselves where the knowledge builds on top of itself? See, from a youth development standpoint, I love to share my mistakes. Because see, I want young people to make new ones. But don't do what I did. But imagine if we all had the vulnerability to share our mistakes with one another. What an accelerant that would be for our individual success and our collective success. I'm a dreamer. But see, I know all things are possible. My life is an example of when the village comes together, when you're poured into, when you're believed in, when you're not allowed to derail yourself. I know what's possible through my work. And this is the work that we've been doing at Eagle Academy for over 20 years, building the ecosystem for young people's long-term success. We had to figure that out. Initially, it was just about replicating schools, but we realized there was a crisis on the other side. When you're dealing with a population that's 80% low income, they don't have the social capital and the social networks. So we needed to pivot and be more. But each and every one of us can be more. Each and every one of us can be a part in this reimagining of the village. You know, there's this quote from Andre 3000 that's been living rent-free in my head. He said, being black is a creative act. Each day, you have to create your own reality in a world that was not built for you. So that makes us the ultimate architects. Now imagine if the ultimate architects all got together, the towns, the cities that they could build. We are greater than the sum of our parts. We have always achieved our greatest success when we have come together. And you've heard the previous speaker from an AI standpoint. The world is shifting, but the only way that we make it through this is by being open to learn, learning from each other's mistakes, and reimagining the village. It is possible. We've done it before, and I believe that we will do it again. Why? Because I believe in us. Thank you.